There's a wicked interesting new course here at Suffolk University's Sawyer Business School, one that's breaking new ground. We'll tell you all about it. Hello and welcome to The On-Ramp, an ongoing series that highlights thought leadership from the Sawyer Business School in downtown Boston. My name is Peyton Garrity, and today I'll be speaking with Professor Russell Seidle, Director of First-Year Programs at the Business School. He's going to talk about an innovative new course called Tackling Wicked Global Problems. Professor Seidle, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
First off, the name of this course is so interesting, Tackling Wicked Global Problems. Why call it that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the idea of wickedness has a very specific connotation when we think about social problems. So wicked problems are problems that have myriad of stakeholders involved with different perspectives, no clear stopping rule in terms of when we know we've solved the problem, as well as the idea that experimentation is costly. So those three aspects really kind of characterize the types of questions we're looking at, which are wicked problems this semester. And we talk about tackling wicked problems because it's not just impressing upon students the idea that there are those problems, but also giving them an idea for how to try to address them or ultimately solve them.
That's good to know because a lot of people might think it's because of the Boston lingo.
There was a fortunate callback to the vernacular, but yeah, the specific wickedness idea is really connoted with the wicked problems.
That's awesome, good to know. And what is the course actually about?
So when we look at the course this semester, we're tackling the issue of transportation. So we're looking at transportation in a broad sense, both in Boston and globally. The idea that there are various stakeholders involved, everyone from the MBTA to commuters to technology companies to the state legislatures. And we're looking for ways that students can suggest to refine, to improve the experience of the transportation system while still addressing issues like emissions, like access, like community involvement, and try to kind of resolve the system in such a way that it responds to as many of those stakeholder needs as possible. So that's really our focus this semester, is really transportation as a wicked problem.
That's a definitely good idea. How does tackling wicked global problems differ from more traditional undergraduate business school courses?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's the scope of the course that's really sets it apart from a lot of what we do at SBS. So I think we're great in the business school at really tackling very specific organizational problems, looking at consulting with live clients, figuring out what it means for a very particular corporate client or a specific organization. The scope of our course with Wicked Problems is different than that. So it's looking at transportation, for example, not just from the perspective of the T, but also from the system itself. Riders of the T, the suppliers to the T, the legislatures again, and looking at ways to try to address the problem from that perspective. So I think that it's a different scope of problem, it's a different topic, and I think that's really how we distinguish the course from some of our other traditional offerings.
Yeah, and it definitely applies to a lot of people at Suffolk who have to commute to come to school or come to work.
100%. There's like a lot of familiarity with the transportation system firsthand, for sure.
That's a great connection. Why was it important to incorporate a course with a broad social focus into the undergraduate curriculum?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think that students, we found, are thinking about these issues in general already. So not just transportation, but things like climate change, like global inequality, like gender relations, all of which we would characterize as wicked problems. So we thought this is an opportunity to meet them where they are, to take advantage of the fact that they're already sensitized to those issues, to give them some agency and some ability to propose solutions or ways to address them. And the response we've gotten so far has been really positive. People have said, you know, there's a challenging course, but it really encouraged me to think broadly about ways to solve these problems that seem like they're insurmountable. So we thought it was important, again, because students are already thinking about these topics, to incorporate them into our curriculum.
That's awesome. As the course came together, you learned it was likely the first undergraduate course in the country, and maybe the world, to take this holistic approach to business education. Is that true?
It is. So, I mean, the research that we've done suggests that there's certainly other schools that are looking at these types of issues within their curriculum, but in smaller facets. It seems like we're certainly one of the first, if not the only schools, to have a full course developed around this, to look at this in a very particular curricular fashion, the way that we are, certainly at the undergraduate level, if not at the graduate level. But we think that, you know, being the pioneers in this space will help to distinguish us as a business school. It's where the world is going to in terms of our ability and our desire to kind of attract and admit students who are looking at these problems. So we think that we're hopefully on the vanguard of a movement that's going to change these business schools as well.
Tackling wicked global problems is also part of a redesign in the undergraduate curriculum. How does it fit into the suite of first-year courses overall?
Yeah, so as director of the first year program, so I have kind of a view of the landscape of first year courses. So I would say that what we try to do in the first year program is really develop skills at a basic level for students. So our Career Start course, our Business Foundations courses, innovative teaming, as well as business communications. What we're trying to do is in the first year program develop a lot of these skills on the part of students in terms of how to work well in teams, how to understand the lay of the land when it comes to business, how to work with technology and do these kind of very basic things that are important to business education. And we look at tackling wicked global problems as almost a capstone to those courses. So those skills that students develop through the first year program, they have a chance to express and refine in tackling wicked global problems, and that creates a foundation for them then moving into their functional level majors. So we see it as kind of a logical conclusion in some ways of the first year program and a nice stepping stone into the remainder of their studies.
That's great. How does this course address the notions of experiential and immersive learning that are a key focus of the business school?
It is really a key focus at SBS. So this notion of immersive learning is really something that's core to the strategic plan, and we see tackling wicked global problems as kind of foundationally immersive in nature. So we have guest speakers who come in and talk about the particulars of transportation in Boston, for example. We have students do a deep dive in terms of research, both primary research, so going out in the world and kind of figuring out what people think of the transportation system, as well as secondary research, so seeing what's published research and says about this issue, looking at different jurisdictions around the world in terms of solutions that they've developed that we could also transport to Boston. So everything kind of fundamentally about the course is immersive in nature in the sense that students are fundamentally immersed in the context of the problem. They're required and expected to develop data and insights related to that problem and then use that to generate solutions and recommendations specific to the problem. So there's a clear kind of embedded experiential and immersive focus in the course.
And would guest speakers be people from the MBTA, or what would that really look like for class?
Yeah, we have people either from the MBTA or from, in my course, we have a Mass DOT, someone who's coming in and speaking and just giving us a sense for what the big issues in the transportation system look like, what specific ideas might have already been generated to try to address them, and where there are remaining issues to be tackled, just to kind of inspire the students a little bit.
That's great. And how do you envision the course progressing and evolving over time?
Yeah, so we're starting to scale up the course in the fall semester. So we've been piloting it. We've had 4 sections of the course to this point. Fall 2024 is when we roll it out at scale with 10 plus sections. We have some great faculty members across the business school who are going to be teaching the course itself. And I think that we'll start to really expand the types of topics we're looking at, so from transportation to things like global food systems to potentially climate change. I see this as an opportunity for us to really, again, tackle these problems, look at them in various different ways depending on the expertise of the faculty members, and really look at this as kind of a linchpin of the business school curriculum, a way to, again, tackle these problems in a global setting and not just an organizational one. So I think that the scope of the course will increase, the kind of involvement in the course by various faculty will increase, and hopefully the experience and the positive experience by students will increase as well.
Professor Seidle, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on The On-Ramp.